Aldcombe, Haywards Heath, Wivelsfield, Burgess Hill, Essex, Preston Park, and Brighton.
So again, welcome. And then I'm going to turn things over to Sandy to start off our public think tank. And again, thank you, Sandy, for doing this series.
It's my absolute honor to be here, Alpha. Thank you for having me, and Liza as well. And it's really wonderful to hear from you, Cherie, too. My name is Sandy Holman, and I am the director of the Culture Co-op and United in Unity. And we are so proud to partner with the Sojourner Truth African Heritage Museum as they work around community engagement and social justice and using the arts to impact lives in our community. As Alpha was sharing, they do these sessions on Tuesdays, and I will be joining you for the first Tuesdays from 9 to 11 for today, April, May, and June, and we'll be covering various topics. Our hope is to really engage people to visualize, think about, go become introspective about the importance of and the power of using the arts to make a difference in our community. So I want to say a huge thank you to the Sojourner Truth African Heritage Museum and all the partners who are a part of this effort to make a difference in our communities. I'm trying to get my slide to, I see, I'm going to have to scroll. So um, what we're talking about today is telling our stories using the arts. And the Culture Co-op and United in Unity totally align with Sojourner Truth, Shona McDaniels, all of the people that are working around this effort to really encourage people about how you can use the arts to tell our stories. We know historically that arts are powerful when it comes to leaving evidence about stories that once existed in the past. And so we already did introductions where we were introducing ourselves and what we do to make a difference. But I am going to ask my partners who are here right now, what is it that you specifically do artistically to make a difference? If you wouldn't mind answering that question with me, that would be wonderful. And I want to start with Alpha, because I've been communicating with her regularly. Alpha does a variety of things, but as we think about the arts, Alpha, what artistic thing do you do that you love to do the most that makes a difference in the community?
Well, I am a painter, a visual artist before anything. And all of the work that I do, with this art consulting, all this research work I'm doing, it affords me it affords for me to be an artist, and live the lifestyle that I live. I like doing murals, and murals and social justice that they communicate my thoughts um, and they communicate my thoughts and how I feel about certain social justice issues. And if I can't interpret them vocally, I can express them visually in my art. I also do environmental installation work, and that means I'm outdoors doing not only the mural work and other placemaking activities and creating spaces for people to be inside. I go out to forest preserves or farms, nature parks and nature centers, and I create sound installations or visual installations. And then, of course, they dissipate, but those are ways, I kind of communicate with people about what I'm passionate about, and doing that work. And I also am passionate about creating these cultural districts in order for people to have places to come and explore the arts.
Well,
And I feel that's how I make a difference.
Well, I had the pleasure of seeing just some snippets of Alpha's work, and I want to encourage those of you, if you're out there in Chicago, to look her up. Her work was incredible. All kinds of imagery started coming to my brain, so I know, no doubt, she's making a huge difference. Liza, I'm going to ask you the same question. What do you artistically do to make a difference, in your opinion, in the community?
Liza had to step away for a minute. She's
Oh,
working on
that's okay.
something.
Okay, and Cherie, you want to answer that question?
I actually like working with the youth. I love the pop-ups with the Sojourner Truth Museum. It lets me be hands-on with art and youth, and a lot of times I'm very encouraging to them, and um, sometimes kids don't get that encouragement in school, but they know when they find me at sometimes they'll look for me and they know that whatever they do, I'm going to like it. I'm going to have something positive to say.
Mhm.
And I think that working with Sojourner Truth Museum has really shown me to just be positive,
Mhm.
especially Michiana. She's so positive about art, and I think that has really influenced me.
Mhm.
And so, like I said, I like working with youth and doing art with the youth and seeing them create um and almost like be free. There's no right or wrong way, and I try to let them express themselves however they can. I'll say, okay, well, I'll give you this, but you do it how you visually want to do it, and just kind of guide them.
Uh, um, I love it. That's quite powerful. And again, as we think about the arts and the Sojourner Truth Museum and what they're doing with the community, they are bringing arts alive and active. And that's what we want to be talking about over the next several listening sessions, how you can bring arts alive and actually make a huge difference by doing so in the area of social justice. Uh, Here at the Culture Co-op United in Unity, and I always say Happy New Year to you all, even though we're already in the month of March. We believe that it's important to soar into your calling and to unite with others for impact, which is why we're working with Shona McDaniels in the Sojourner Truth Museum and Alpha and the whole team, is because we know these times are calling for us to make an impact. So I'm really excited. um, Primarily, what we do is we help youth and young adults survive and thrive too. So I really connect with what you were just sharing, Cherie. We believe that young adults are our future, and we want to engage with them, and we want to encourage all those who work with them and communities in general to promote systemic change and equity and diversity, cultural competency, literacy, and equality education for all. We also, and I was talking to Alpha about this earlier in a radio interview, we want to encourage people to love themselves and others and to share power and resources in the world, because we really believe that that is at the core of what's going on with so many of the problems that we have, besides the historical things. I want to pause for a second as we talk about the arts to say a thank you to our ancestors. Our ancestors are what allow us to continue the tradition of art making. It was our ancestors who called us into being, who made the sacrifices so that we could even express and show our arts. Because if you all remember, there was a time when we couldn't even show our arts. We were totally invisible, made to be invisible. And there are still efforts like that, as you all know, going around the world today. They're banning books, for example, in schools. They're not allowing certain art exhibits in certain spaces because those messages are sharing truth to power. So I want to stop really for a second and just say thank you to our ancestors. I hold this candle up to you, and we say, I say, Hotep, and thank you for all you've done to allow us to continue in your tradition and honoring the arts. And I want to stop to ask really quickly, Alpha and Cherie, is there an ancestor that spoke to you artistically who's no longer here that inspired the work that you are trying to do as we give homage to our ancestors?
I have a cousin, Cece.
Mhm.
Was in theater. She's passed. She was in New York. I have several, um, you know, uh, ancestors that are artists in the Bruton line that I give honor to.
I love it. I love it. And how about you, Cherie?
I would say on my mom's side, my grandmothers and there's a long line of artists, particularly doing embroidery and macrame, um, sewing, making doilies, and um, and even my mom's with us still, but she's an artist, and my dad's a photographer. He has a good eye for photography, so I would say, yeah.
Well, I love it. And I would like to pay homage to my grandfather, Rufus X. Holman, who was a writer. My artistic sharing is in the writing arena and working with magnificent artists like yourself from a variety of places and spaces to converge together to present ideals and transformative thoughts for the new generation. So I pay homage to my grandfather and also my elders, Theotha Wright and Marcia Carter and Christelle Johnson, who are just amazing. And that's one thing that I like about the Sojo Museum. It is a living light. It's a living honor to our ancestors and how it represents itself and highlights the arts. So behind this gentleman is a picture that was painted representing the ancestors. I wish I had a better quality one, but we don't. This was done by a young muralist back in the day. And so, again, we pay homage to our ancestors because we would not be without them. And right now, as I think about the arts and what we're trying to do with the arts as we intersect them with community engagement and fighting for social justice at a time when it is much needed. Of course, it's been much needed throughout history, but we're only escalating. I like to think about how we're feeling about the journeys we are on. Excuse me, I'm all excited. As we use the arts to pave new pathways in our community. So I wanted to ask you, Alpha, how are you feeling right now about how the arts are having an impact in the area of social justice and community engagement?
Well, that's a kind of deep, I guess that's a deep um, question. And how do I feel about it? I just feel like, just even assembling this team for the Capital Region Creative Corps, and I selected the team because of the way that they're doing the social justice work that they're doing in their art form. They're not just doing art for art's sake. They are actually, making these impacts across the city. And that's kind of what I said in my, in the grant writing that I did for this particular grant is, and so how I feel about it is just that, I'm looking at people that have the equal passion for the work, and they are doing the work, and not now trying to create new work based on a grant, but they are the people that are doing the work and have been doing the work, for 20, 30 years. And some of the artists are young that are doing this work. Doesn't mean that they haven't been doing it since they were innately doing it since they were in high school, and coming to the museum and learning through our internship programs, and I could just see like I could just see the magic that's happening, with our passing on knowledge and by the work that we're doing hands-on with youth. And then I can see I'm old enough now to see that generation, like 2 generations later, you know, um, carrying on the flame of the work that we're doing right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That cross generational work is so important. And that's something I know that we believe in. The Sojourner Truth Museum believes in it, headed again by Shona McDaniels. It's just something that's critical and important so that we can all hit the ground running, leaving off where the others stopped without having to start from letter A again. So I love that you are still doing this. And Alpha beguiles her years. She's older than most people think. She doesn't look her age. So that makes it even more special. How about you, Cherie? How are you feeling right now about the need and how we're using the arts in the communities to try to make a difference?
I think it's going great. I was thinking about this the other day, and this is probably the first time that in, Sacramento history specifically, but that art is so available to everybody, regularly. I remember watching Bob Ross and thinking, gosh, I wish we had the money to buy that acrylic set that he has, and I wish we had the money to do that, and I would watch him on Channel 6 as a little girl and think like, I just wish I had that. I wish I had those resources available to me. And I mean, besides watching it, like the actual canvas and paint, and I would make stuff based off of what I had. And sometimes I used my nail polish to draw a dress. It was what I had, and then lined paper because that's what I had, and pencils. But I think that even just recently doing the workshop, and the kids were able to they're able to get their hands on glue and paper, different color paper that they would never be exposed to at home, probably. um the collage paper, even seeing Ramir Bearden's artwork, because we had samples for them to look at, and some of them weren't impressed. I love Ramir Bearden. I'm just gonna be honest with you. Some of them were impressed with his work, but the fact is they were being exposed to, exposed to that part of the art world, the collaging and what he did.
I
Um,
love it.
yeah, I love him too. I do. I absolutely I love him. And so I think it's great. And Miss Shona does an amazing job with the art pop-ups. And, you see youth from the community. The people working there aren't being bussed in from a different city. It's people that live in the community that are working, and you're seeing multi-generational families. You're seeing grandparents bring their grandkids. You're seeing teenagers. You know, I I I have the youngest is usually about one, and then all the way on up. you know um
I just love that. And that's what all of this is about, is the vitality of community in solidarity with each other and doing these kinds of things together. There's a power to that, we know. And for those of you who may see this later, even though we're having this discussion right now, we know this is going to be shared out. We want to encourage you to see what Cherie is talking about and get involved with utilizing the arts and collaborating with organizations. If you have not, for example, been to the African Marketplace, which is where Sojourner Truth Museum is housed, you have to get to 2251 Florin Road in Sacramento, and you have to go see a museum that is alive. There's museums that are just standing pieces, and then there are museums that challenge you to engage and to take what you saw and brought into your soul and your spirit and go out and do something with that information. And that's the kind of museum that they have at Sojourner Truth Museum. Um, Shona McDaniels is pretty visionary, but she's partnered with many other people who are very visionary. You also have the Soul Collective in Sacramento. They do a lot of Latinx work. You have the Asian diasporic community also doing a lot of powerful work. In other words, you can connect within your communities and then cross pollinate so we can have the power of that solidarity. So I love what they both just shared. How I'm feeling right now, I'm feeling like we are in a place where we have to use every tool that we have available as individuals, as communities, as systems, as organizations to turn the tide from what we're seeing right now. So as Alpha was saying, this isn't just about feeling good. This is about feeling good and doing something with a purpose. And, this art consortium and the work that people are doing together are going to make a difference. This is my grandfather. This is an altar to my grandfather and my ancestors who inspire me to use whatever tool that I've been giving. The picture in the middle of my grandfather, Rufus X. Holman, he was a man before his time. He is the one who was teaching me about my cultural roots, our artistic roots, our philosophical roots, our mathematical roots, all of those roots that kids don't learn about in school today, which is affecting our communities and how we see each other. He is the first person that introduced me to Africa in the way that he did. My mother and my father and I are on either side of him, as well as my grandmother and my sister. All of these people have inspired me to do this. This altar was set up at a play that we did called the Sankofa Play Experience, which I hope to get the opportunity to share at another time. But as we think about our ancestors and how they make us feel, we all know we need to practice the concept of Sankofa so that we can return and get that knowledge and get that artistic wisdom and get the skill set and get the information we learn from the Jellas and the Jellamusas, or some people call them griots, or the Jegnas and the Jegnis, who gave us information about who we are and how to use art and the tools and so forth to go make a difference. In the end, as we are in sisterhood right now, are connected, we all are connected fundamentally. Not one person, whether they are practicing music, whether they are practicing sculpture, whether they are practicing painting, the spoken word, whatever artistic expression and emotional, powerful impact they're having, not one of us would have that without understanding our artistic roots in Africa and where things started and begin. Um, I believe in living your best life, and I know you guys do too. We have this one life to live. And so we want to encourage you to get involved, to support the work that Sojourner Truth Museum is doing, the Culture Co-op, United in Unity, all the other organizations involved, the Melanin Day School Academy, all the partners, the Artners, the muralists that we're working with, Yaya and her organization. We want to encourage you to get involved with these change makers who are out there making a difference, because we're made of stardust. I like to say we are galactic, metaphorically speaking, symbolic purple love stardust, which means we are quite powerful human beings. Artistically speaking, I like thinking about the principles of Kwanzaa and the concepts around it, like Umoja for unity. And that's what we're talking about coming together with. And it's like we're sitting down to have a metaphorical pot of gumbo with all these artistic ingredients. My mom made the best gumbo so that we can eat and nourish ourselves through the arts so we can go out and make a difference with these babies and their families. So I'm excited. I wanted to pause right now to give a definition of the word art that's as it pertains in the dictionary, because a lot of times people do not think they are an artist when actually they are. So this, the dictionary says it's the expression of human creative skill and imagination, typically in a visual form, such as painting or sculpture, producing works to be appreciated for their beauty or emotional power. And that second part really resonates with me. Emotional power. It's how you feel when you see something, like I felt when I first saw Shona's work, or even Alpha's work that she just showed me recently. I was like, oh, I wish I had that beautiful expression of, painting art. It was just like I got all excited like a little kid in a popcorn store. But it's also the various branches of creative artistry and activities such as painting, music, which I write music too, and literature, which I write a lot of literature, and dance. That is art also. And so a lot of other people are artists if they expand their definition of the word, even as it's written in our own dictionary. And all of us are artists if we choose to be, and we can use that art to change lives. So I wanted to ask you, Alpha and Cherie, do you feel like art that you are doing is changing lives, are influencing lives for the better?
I'm gonna let Cherie go.
Oh, and I see my elder Jelena Johnson just joined us. Hi, Jelena. We are in our session and we're sharing. Alpha was just getting ready to share. I just wanted to stop because she is one of my elders and say thank you for joining us.
I was actually passing the baton over to Cherie so she could not go in front of me.
I hope so. I hope that the art that I do with the youth and just families with Sojourner Truth specifically, I hope it impacts and makes a difference in their lives. I hope so.
Yeah, I'm almost sure it does, Sherry, just from what you just shared this past weekend. And I want to pause for a second because Jelena Johnson is another revered artist that I love that has been at the African Marketplace and the Sojourner Truth Museum. She is an elder who is leading the way for young people to use their artistry to make a difference. So I'm so honored that she's joined us for this listening session. And Jelena, we are dialoguing at times with each other, so feel free to make comments if you'd like to. If you'd like to just introduce yourself really quickly and what your main art form is, that would be great.
And if she could come off camera, that would come on camera, that would be great.
Jelena, are you with us still? Okay, I'm not sure if she's with us, so I'm going to go ahead and go on.
Okay,
So,
so I'll take that next question. I I think it makes an impact? I think I know it makes an impact. For example, Shona called me up, during the pandemic and everything was shuttered, closed. And she said, we got to start, wanting me to write grants and do development work for the museum because she felt like we got to do something, you know what I mean? And not just close the door and then wait this out. We have to do something. And so she started, servicing the community outside of Florence Square, out there in the courtyard area, serving, making sure that the seniors had a meal, making sure that families that registered and signed up had a bag of art to go. So artists like Cherie and some of the other artists that were doing the online, workshops virtually learned how to operate the, computers. We got funding to be able to purchase, rebuilt computers for seniors, that needed to be connected, and sent the youth over to work with the seniors to train them how to do it, to train the youth to go deliver the meals for, the seniors that didn't have vehicles to come pick up that Friday meal. And then, so yes, it makes a difference. The work I do here in Chicago, I did for the last 10 years, I've been doing I call it a pop-up drive-in movie theater that's tactical, meaning that I would rather people from the neighborhood and the community that pass by that may be looking at our programming from the senior building that's 24 stories high across the way, the people at the liquor store across the way that would not come into our gallery to do some of our programming, that feel that there's a disconnect from community being able to come into our programming. I do a pop-up drive-in movie theater where I project on a 3-story building experimental film,
oh, I
so I can
love it.
expose the community to that. So
I-
is the work I'm doing impactful? I think so, because they get a glimpse of, we could just do a little small movie that caters to the people that's inside of our, our garden or our alley, people space, or inside the gallery. We could run those movies. But I felt like, hey, during our, every third Friday Brunsville art tour, I want people to see these experimental films done by the African American artists that are creating these films and have them projected into the atmosphere. So the work that I do is impactful for every community that I go into. I'm making projects that are impactful, that are exposing the greater community to the work that we're doing. So I think so.
It's very appreciated, and thank you so much. I'm asking a question I already know the answer is to, because I know it's impactful. And Jelena, I want to say good morning to you, Elder. I want to thank you for joining us. We are having a discussion about the arts, and I was wondering if you would be willing to introduce yourself and tell what your primary format is for doing artwork with the rest of the group. And I think you're on mute.
Okay, so let me see what I can do about that.
And welcome.
I just unmuted her.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
I've just stumbled upon you because I was looking at my Facebook, and when I saw Sandy and the others that are part of the program, I just had to um, ingest what you all are a part of and what you're doing, and how happy I am to hear you.
Oh.
The question that you ask is, what is my basic contribution to the arts? I am a quilting artist, and I love to paint with acrylics. And it always seems that it promotes the value of my people. Basically, most of the images that I've created, thanks to the creator who allows me to express it, is that of women of color. And I do a lot of greeting cards that are now beginning to have a wider acceptance. And I'm so thankful for that. And I'm also being blessed to um, always listen to and share the many, many blessings that people such as Sandy and others have expressed to the rest of this community. Thank you.
And thank you, Elder. Again, I'm so tremendously honored. I hope you get the chance to meet Alpha and Cherie in person, because I think you would just be so amazed by them. They work closely with Shona, and of course, you know who Shona is. And so
Yeah.
we're just so happy to have you. Um, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share some information with all of you guys a little bit. They are going to be using these pop-up sessions, these listening sessions, to share with other people. This is about getting the words out about using the arts for social justice and community engagement, and supporting places like the Sojourner Truth Museum, which Shona McDaniels is the curator of, and also a community active, a renowned person and well known, like the rest of us here, trying to make a difference. So I just wanted to start by letting you know I was going to do that. So, as we think about the arts and how you can use them, beloved out there, whoever will see this in the future, we know that dance can be a part of things. And I've done this on purpose, where you see the Africa sign in the background, just because, again, Africa was the first. And why is that so important to keep saying? It's important to keep saying because of the distortion of history, and how the African diasporic community, which is spread all over the world now, outside of Africa. The biggest number of Africans are in Brazil, but we're all over the place, the Americas, the islands. All of us have been taught that Africa was the dark continent, that we did not contribute anything, when we have contributed the foundations for the wealth of this world, and for the artistic visions and artifacts that we see in this world. So I wanted you to see this. This was at the International Festival, something that we started here. Mamadou is from West Africa. He is a master drummer. He's worked with Shona. He's worked with all of us in the past. and he brings the art of drumming. And, as I do this talk, we start off with drumming. I was really excited when someone was sharing, I think it was Yaya, about how they had drumming from different cultures to kick off an artistic sharing and event. We did something similarly, and it was quite powerful. But more importantly, drums represent, they speak to us. They represent coming together in solidarity, a calling to our purpose, and many other things. And so Mama Drew is a master drummer that we're honored to work with from West Africa, and he often gets us started. As you know, drumming, she was doing Tai Chi, which is another artistic expression. um, my indigenous brother here calling out to the ancestors. All of this is art in action. I call it art in action. Um, we are expressing who we are. We are sharing our culture or the vibrancy of it. We're calling people to purpose. We are calling people to power. We're calling people to impact. And so all of these cultural and indigenous expressions of our artistic love and being make a difference, as you all were sharing. My primary artistic gifting is in the area of writing music and in writing literature. My books and what I do align so well with the Sojourner Truth Museum and the efforts that they are trying to do in the community, in the sense that we are trying to have an impact. We are trying to create change in how people see themselves and each other. We're trying to fight for justice and empower folks. And as you know, the politics of hair. I wrote this book as our artistic response to the politics of hair, because people are trying to own the heads of Black girls and Black women. We just had some laws passed again saying it was, kids couldn't go to their graduation because they had locks in their hair, or kids couldn't go um, get a certain job or were let go of a job because of their hair. We know historically that is steeped in the practices of controlling our bodies, a part of which is the hair that comes out of our heads. So, Grandma says our hair has flair was my artistic response to little girls who don't love their hair because they've been taught their hair is less than, but also to reclaim their beautiful hair, that we own our hair. Um, so I wanted to show you some of the historical sculptures that give proof to who we were. And as I look at all of you guys here today, um, I'm just so honored. I think of Queen T when I see Alpha. I think of Queen T when I hear Cherie. Jelena, you know you are Queen T in action. Queen T was a queen in Egypt, which was called Kemet, spelled KMT. She was a ruler there and was revered, and they made many busts of her. This is an artistic sculpture that looks like a photograph, because of course they couldn't take pictures back then. We remember that. We didn't have cameras and our phones, but we did have the ability to do sculpture. And Queen T, this is how she would look if you were seeing her face. Most people have never seen this sculpture because it's in the German Museum of Art. As you know, many colonial countries went into Africa, took over parts of Africa, most of Africa as we speak, and took many of the artifacts out of Africa and kind of chopped up our history, our artistic history narrative too. But this is Queen T, and I like to say to the kids, Queen T who looks like me, because I tell them that she's a part of you. Again, this is making art in action, art in justice, art in solidarity with community. Her son, Pharaoh Narmer here, or Ah, is the first person, and again, we didn't have cameras, who united Upper and Lower Egypt. And he has never been seen. You can tell he was a brother with his sculpture because they made themselves look, their sculptures look like they look. And he was a brother. And he brought the Lower Egypt together with Upper Egypt, and Kemet was born, or what we call Egypt today. The Greeks called it Algyptos. They changed the name, and in English that translates to Egypt. But he is the unifier of Egypt. Pharaoh Akhenaten, to the right of him, my right of him, is the son of Queen T. Most people have never seen Pharaoh Akhenaten's mother, which is Queen T. And that was by design too, because they don't want you to know his mother was African diasporic. Again, art tells our stories. We are telling our stories when we look at the artistic artifacts, the paintings on the walls, the sculptures that were done, the actual craft artistry, the rings, the jewelry, all of that tells a story. And Pharaoh Akhenaten was famous because he made what people change what we would call religion today to his religion. He was a believer in the sun, and he was the son of Queen T. Um, you know, the Ida B. Wells going forward quite a bit. This is a painting of Ida B. Wells, even though we have pictures of her. And this particular artist captured her in that moment. And if you look at her face, if I asked you guys, what do you think she's thinking, or what feelings she is expressing, what would come to your mind if you looked at Ida B. Wells, this particular painting? Anybody?
Oh, she definitely looked like a queen.
A queen. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
And I would say um, one of the African queens, more particularly. I'm not sure which one.
And Ida B. Wells was like royalty. She was a tough sister.
Yes.
What do you think, Alpha? What feeling do you think she's expressing in this artist's portrayal of her?
Um, I just see her being in a very like I'm proud, of who I am, just by her, there's no aloofness in her at all. It's just the way she's holding herself, that queenly manner that we do when we come into a room with our head up, and our eyes cast. So, I really like the way this artist captured her, the essence of her.
Yes. And how about you, Cherie?
I think she's thinking about the future.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so, I love how we can all look at it and have overlapping ideals of what she may have been thinking. When I look at it, I see a face that's saying, are they serious? Do they think I'm going away? Oh no, I'm here to stay. Art is that kind of powerful. It can tell a story of a moment. And if you look at the photos, and by the way, photography is a form of art too. As we look at the two to the right, um, looking at those photos in that moment, that photographer captured something that tells a story, a micro story for that moment. So understanding the relevance of history and the fact that art itself tells untold stories is critical. I think that's why, and I have to ask Shona, but that's why I think, Sojourner Truth Museum is why she wanted to name that museum the Sojourner Truth Museum. We'd have to ask her. But when you think of Sojourner Truth, she was a woman who told the truth. Like if you look at this picture, this rendition of her, she has a look on her face that says to me, yes, let's get ready and get down to business. Are you ready? Or she's looking at me to say, are you ready? And so I love, it's one of the reasons why I love the name of the museum at the African Marketplace, because she was such a very powerful woman. And I love this quote where she says, I feel safe even in the midst of my enemies, for the truth is powerful and will prevail. And that, in a nutshell, is so mandatory when you're doing social justice work, community engagement work, fighting for equity, fighting for the rights of all people. Um, Again, just kind of to give you that snapshot view of art telling untold stories. If you go to the Art of the Soul exhibit in Woodland, which is in Yolo County, 625 Court Street, right now, Shona McDaniels and her colleagues and collaborators have put on an excellent art show. I wanted to give you just a sample of Shona's work that I happen to have a picture of. Um, this is hanging in the Art of the Soul uh, an admin building right now. This exhibit is up, I think, to April the 2nd, so you can go see it. Shona's work is very, very, very powerful. And again, it tells a story. If Shona was standing by you, I'm sure she would let you say, what does this speak to you? What does it say to you? And then she could probably share some things with you as far as the story or the message that she was trying to convey. And it's a multi-dimensional, multi-leveled message too. There's a lot going on in this image. We were just talking about hair. She's making a statement with the sister's hair in cornrows, a traditional hairstyle that's been in Africa for thousands of years, and that is our hair. This is my interpretation, by the way. You look at the different patterns in the background. Those different patterns represent different kinds of textures and textiles from Africa. you know, the richness of her melanin and the darkness of her beautiful skin in an anti-blackness world where dark skin is considered not something to be proud of. This is saying something magnificent. And then, of course, most importantly, the expression on her face. We could ask each other, what do you think the expression on her face is conveying? In fact, I want to ask you, what do you think from your perspective? Again, I know Shona has a total vision for what she was thinking when she did this, but Jelena, what do you think her expression is conveying? The untold story
I
here.
dare you to see me differently
Ah,
than I am.
I love it. I love it. How about you, Cherie?
I see motherly love,
Mm-hmm.
just like, the like Mother Africa, um like ancestors and maybe approval too.
Yeah, I can see it. What are your thoughts, Alpha?
Well, interesting enough, I know the backstory on this, and when Shona started it, and this is one of the canvases that she started when she was in the wheelchair.
Oh, wow.
After her accident, with stepping off that ladder doing a mural,
I remember.
um, and then her being convalescent for a year, and then now she's finally in the wheelchair. And so these are one of the first series of compositions that she was doing. And I saw how this collage piece, because it is a collage, it's fabric and gold leaf and the ribbon there. So you'll see more of the cloth and how she's worked with it. Not saying anything yet about the imagery that's in it, because she really believes in the dark melanated, tones that she paints, and giving tribute to, the sisters that have this glow about them. But this is something in contemplation at a place and a time the artist was.
Mm,
Because I know the backstory, I can say this about the
yeah.
piece, but even before that, I knew is the contemplation, of and the complexity, even for me with the patterns, it's the complexity of design elements that she was choosing for this piece. And it's not a very simple piece, but I just see the pose of the sister as being in a contemplation space where she's
Yes.
thinking.
Yeah, it's quite exquisite and it's
Mhm.
so detailed when you look at all the different patterns that she put behind the sister, the glow around her head, and the expression of her face. Again, it makes me go breathless, some of the work that she does. And again, I want to encourage all of you to go out to the Art of Soul exhibit in Woodland, California. It's here to April the 2nd. Shona, in collaboration with many other artists that she pulled together for this display, is highlighted there along with their amazing work, and it's quite beautiful. Here's another piece that is at the exhibit. Again, art tells stories. And Alpha had the benefit of having the backdrop of when she did that piece, which was incredible to know. Because I do remember she and I both were actually out of it at the same time and still trying to do what we did. And this work is, again, just so powerful. This is just a sample of her work, and again, telling an untold story. What's nice about art as we think about social justice and engagement too, and creating viable young people who can survive and thrive, whether it's in the workforce, in their families and communities, is that it allows each person to kind of interpret what resonates and what it speaks to them. But there is nothing like getting the artists, or someone who knows the artist in this case, their explanation of a particular piece. Very quickly, I also want to mention Milton Bowens. Am I pronouncing his last name right, Alpha?
Yeah,
Uh,
Bowens.
Yes.
yeah, he's
Yes.
also over there, another artist that I love. His art, he he puts his art, again, this is art telling a story, and he puts the writing with it. He is someone who would really speak to my heart too because of the writing. The miseducation of Ida B. Wells' America, can't take my eyes off you. I just love this piece. I love this piece because we were just talking about her photograph. I love this piece because of the boldness of the woman living in a time at great peril to herself, where she chronicled lynching, which tells a story that was not being told. And that still occurs today. Most people don't know that lynching still goes on because you don't see it in the media, but it does. And I love this because we cannot take our eyes off of her. Um, Again, his work is on display there also. If you want to see his work, he's one of the partners of this effort with the Sojourner Truth Museum and what they're trying to do in the community. And so, again, another piece of his work. Don't allow stereotypes to stymie you. Watermelon is good for you, because we have the stereotype of just being watermelon eating, loving folks. And he's like in your face with it. So I love Milton's expression. This is an example of telling a story in a few seconds and a statement combined with amazing art. This is another one of the artists that is shown there. I just wanted to give you guys a taste of how each artist can tell a story. I'm not going to go through all of them. I just want to encourage you to go to that exhibit, to go to the Sojourner Truth Museum, to go to the Women's History Month event that they're having this Saturday. I'm not sure if it starts at 10 or 11. Is it 10 or 11, Alpha? Do you know?
Um, the museum opens at 10, programming begins at noon.
Okay, so, and they will have vendors and food and art. Of course, the museum, which you should not go to the African marketplace without going through the museum. Otherwise, you've missed one of the most important parts. Um, Wanted to take a moment to also acknowledge the author Wright. This is a gentleman who started the work of actually using points of bleach, point by point, to create his imagery. He is 84 right now. The art of the African diaspora is going on. It's going to be finishing up in the next week or two. They've been doing displays in art places and art spaces all over Northern California, some in Southern California. He's another person. Shona's actually worked with him too. He's my favorite male artist. He's another person that you should know about. And his art tells a story, often of many different things, a lot of storytelling out of the African beginnings that we all are birthed from. So one of the biggest art pieces that most people know as the Sphinx, but the Africans called Horameket, still is one of the largest world old wonders of the world. It is in Africa, in Egypt. We know that this had the face of a brother on it. His nose was destroyed by a variety of things I won't go into today. I know that when Napoleon went over there and saw this, he went nuts seeing all of these artifacts that were telling stories that the brothers and the sisters and the families over there had laid the beginnings of civilization. If you get a chance to go, because again, this tells a story. And if you get a chance and you learn the history and you read the history and you go, you will see this big monument, big sculpture of Haramekat. that the Greeks later changed to the name of the Sphinx. Here's another one. Again, art tells stories. This was one of the pharaohs that lived at the time in Egypt. And I'm just going through a few of them right now. I already showed you Pharaoh Narmer here, Queen T in color, a little bit better of an image. This sister just looks like she's saying, come on with it. Let's get together in solidarity. And let me tell you my story. I am Queen T, who looks like me. People from all over the world used to come to see me, to learn from me, to ask of my wisdom. I am amazing. Mother of Pharaoh Akhenaten, grandmother of King Tut. Yes, he's in my family, may even be my son. They go back and forth. But this sculpture with the traditional Nubian headwear lets you know of her Nubian roots. The Nubians, again, the Egyptians saw the Nubians, or the Kemites, if you use their original name, saw the Nubians as their family. They were related, and like all families, they fought. I'd like to know what you guys think about this piece, which is thousands of years old, and what it says to you as you look at it. What untold story might it say to you, Jelena, as you look at it?
um, I'm just looking at the features, and I see how they have gone from one generation through to the next, and you can never eliminate who we really are.
That's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Well said. Cherie or Alpha?
She looks beautiful, and the details are there. It's just so detailed, and I'm not sure how big it is, but um, whatever artist did this was very skilled, and it looks like she was very important.
She
And
was,
she also looks familiar. Like if you go, you could go and you see, you could see her. I love the detail of it. You could tell she's very important.
yes, she was incredibly important. She was the mother of Akhenaten, like I said, and from Dynasty 18. People forget, basically dynasties 1 to 12 were African diasporic. 18, Dynasty 18, African diasporic. Dynasty 25, African diasporic. In between, invaders from other countries. The Hyksos, which was of an Asian background, the Germans, the French, the Greeks, which stole a lot of the history and a lot is given credit to them for. The Romans, I mean, and the Arabs who live there today. They were not the indigenous people who lived in Kemet that we are seeing today. And this art tells that story. If you went to Africa and you went and you saw this, again, is in the German museum because many colonial countries looted the art from Africa, including the obelisk, or what the Africans called tekens. You can go to France, you can go to Washington, D.C. They all have obelisks. Some of those were actually taken out of Africa. Some of them are facsimiles. But when I look at this, I just think, wow. How about you, Alpha?
Well, I was just going to follow through with what Cherie was saying about it's so familiar. You look at it as sometimes you have folks that look alike all around the world, and no matter like whatever the dynasty this was in the 1390s, but it's still like a person that you would see walking down the street, um, and not talking about the hierarchy of the position, but just how this person, is so familiar within our DNA, you
Absolutely.
know.
I love what you just said about the DNA because, people always like to say we were once African kings and queens, and we were, but we were also everyday beings, and we had regalness and royalty within us, and the practice of excellence within us. And reacquainting through the arts with this is a first step in social justice, believe it or not, and community engagement and equity and understanding and combating anti-Blackness. When you study historical art pieces that you will not see, again, the biggest purveyors of taking our art is the British Museum. They have more artifacts taken out of Africa than any other country. And a lot of the ones that show the Black pharaohs, the blackness of the continent and what was being done are often kept under the museums. They'll show you the things from when the Greeks invaded or the Romans invaded. And it's important to understand that history because what we are seeing today, in a sense, is still going on. And that is people trying to shut down certain arts or not value a group's art because they're Black or Asian or Latinx or some other group. They're not dominant culture. This is priceless. And again, just by looking at her headwear, you know she was a Nubian woman. We also know she was a queen. Um, and was valued. They have big sculpture. I mean, oversized, like giant size sculpture. If you go there, and I really encourage people to go there with someone who's conscious of the true history of Africa. And again, this was her son. And it was so funny with her son, they tried to say that he had a disease because his face was shaped like this. And one of my mentors said, no, he don't have a disease. He just has the disease of looking like a brother, you know. But they used to try and say that he was an alien or had some sort of physical disorder because of how he looked, because he was telling the story of who he was. I'm a brother with an elongated face, but a brother nonetheless, the son of Queen T, who you never get to see because she clearly is a Black woman, an African woman, and I am her son. Here's his side view. And here's a real image of Queen Nefertiti. If you went to Africa, this is what was actually etched in the wall. A lot of people see the refined artist rendition, which was done way later by an artist. This was actually done by the people who were living in her time. And this is how she was depicted. So this is like we call her the real Nefertiti, as opposed to the one that you see that was done. So art can be used politically also. Art can be used to convey false messages. Art can be used to convey toxic messages. But art can be used to give truth to power if we're willing to look at these images. Again, King Tut, Queen Nefertiti, Pharaoh Akhenaten, and Queen T are all in the same family line. And in fact, if you get to go to the Cairo Museum, they do have many pieces of him up. Here's another art piece. This was Sister Queen Nefertari. Again, we're talking about people who did not have photography, so they used paintings. And Sister Queen Nefertari was a bad sister. She reminds me of people, the spirit of all the people that are in this group today, and probably many of you who hopefully will see this later, and certainly our sister Shona. She was something to be reckoned with. And the work, again, to this day has outlast. You know, that's one thing that's about art. If we want to keep a living history, we can do it in art so future generations know. I want to take a moment to again thank my great grandmother to the left, upper left, my grandmother and my mother here in this picture for nurturing my creativity and who I am. And then my grandfather that's on the bottom and my dad, all of them are ancestors now, but they're the ones who all have taught me about the importance of justice, knowing who you are and where you came from, using art as a tool, not just something for beauty, although that's nice to have too, but using something as a tool. I'm trying to impart that to the next generation, the young little baby you see here in the fabric, the African fabric here, his legacy and who he came from using the arts. So all of these images are that. But now I want to talk about art in action. So we can use tools to start a movement, express feelings from that movement, send a message. And one of the artistic expressions of art is dance. Yes, you know, you already know that dance is a part of it. So I just want to show you a little clip and then ask your thoughts about this. This is a group of people using dance as a tool of social justice.
What is the purpose of dance as an art form? How can we as dance artists go beyond the doing of steps or the doing of choreography, but how can it be part of broader conversations?
So I think our work in that is really making stories that are often invisible, visible through art.
And they had a sign up. Yeah, I remember still having a sign. They never took the sign down about Flash to the back of the bus. They still had the sign up on the bus. I still remember looking at it.
Many people have no sense of the history of public transportation and the fraught history behind it. And the arts can play a really significant role in that because it brings it back to the body.
You have your own history. This is the history of these people. Where's your body in that? And how do we be mindful of their living body being in the midst of racial segregation?
That does not leave me when I saw the disparate separation with the pool tables, the bathrooms, the window, black window, colored mirror, white mirror.
If we think about the first Black bus operators, what it meant to be on that bus, riding down Monument Avenue, crossing the color line. Taking that in and really thinking, I'm responsible for sharing these stories as dancers, as artists, as students.
We learned a lot about ancestral history, and a lot of the work that we're doing is unpacking our histories.
It was just really an intricate way to look at the history of Richmond and how it connects to the GRTC and looking at how transportation is such a vital part. So trying to put that in our own movement style has been really rewarding.
First, we built our own vocabulary with different movements. We did our research, and that set different prompts for different choreography techniques and processes.
And so there were words like ancestral scoop, betraying my ancestors, right? How do we become good ancestors ourselves in undoing the harm of racial injustice?
What we try to do is offer students opportunity in these projects to be active learners, to be active engagers, so that then they can tell the stories of other people that didn't have the chance to tell their own stories.
So, and I know I kind of jumped abruptly from just looking at kind of two-dimensional art into moving art, but wanted to bring in how art is way beyond the boundaries that we often confine it into. It's not just a static piece. It is a moving, powerful, energetic ball of possibility, of impact. And so this particular group was using the art form of dance, and wanted to ask you guys, what were your thoughts about dance as an art form as we look at social justice and community engagement, the intersectionality of artists letting their voices be heard through their bodies? What are your thoughts about that?
First of all, that was a very powerful presentation because, you had a little clips of dancers on stage, that was frozen in motion earlier in the presentation. But dance, again, tells a story, you know what I mean? And then also the visual impact of what they were doing, showing these multi-dimensional levels of presentation. It was just a powerful statement. It made you sit and listen and pay attention. It wasn't just dance and movement. It was the visual part of what was happening too, with the projection, and telling that story.
Yes, I agree. They were powerful. Jelena, thank you.
Well, looking at that presentation made me think about the different genres that we have gone through just in our time frame, and how dance expressed the levels of understanding that people had or have with generations, and how this country has gone from one level, think back to the 1800s when uh, it was a show and an expression of what they thought of the generations when they would have the particular balls that they had, that we as a people of color were not invited to perform in, other than we had a musical ability or we were serving them. Then it has changed to when in the 20s there was an acceptance of a certain lifestyle and dance and choreography, but it was only limited to people who had a certain amount of, if I may say so, whiteness in them, so they didn't have to look at the dark melanated people.
Yes.
Then we go all the way up to the 60s, late 60s and the 70s and the 80s, when we had the televised program of people dancing, and there was a time when we were not accepted into that televised movement that went across the country to express what was going on in the lives of people. And now it has changed.
Absolutely.
And we have to look at it.
And
Beg your pardon?
No, and you're right on point. And what's nice is we have a lot of filming of past dance, using the body and dance to express feelings and sentiment around the things you're talking about on up to today. So it is a powerful visual reminder. Thank you so much for that.
Yes.
And Sherry, what were your thoughts?
I love dance as an art form. One of my favorite ones is to watch, not to do, is capoeira. And
yes.
it's a dance, but it's also self-defense. And then I can't remember what tribe it is. There's a tribe where they use dance for the men. The men use a dance form. I think they're jumping. They're jumping really high, which I consider that, movement as a dance form. And that signals they're ready to get married. The other thing, like with quinceañeras, where I mean, traditionally, it was showing that, the girl was ready to get married. I mean, she's young, but so I think that it's not by accident that just humanity, almost all of humanity has some type of cultural dance expression, um, unifying two people, or even just the group together, a wedding dance, just a way of, even, with using dance to defend yourself with the capoeira. And I think that it evokes emotion. And I saw another tribe where the women were dancing, and it was a king or a prince, I can't remember. He was selecting his bride based off of the dance.
Yep.
So I think there's something primal about it, ancestral, that is in every human being's, like straight from Africa 100,000 years ago type of thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. And what's nice is we think about the work we're trying to do. As you said, dance can have such a powerful impact on a community that is trying to make a difference. For
I
young.
was gonna, before we flip the switch and go on to this piece right here,
Yeah.
I was sitting here going like, what part did I was trying to remember in terms of, we jumped from what was happening on plantation and what was taken over, in the diaspora of African folks, our people, is the cakewalk. Remember how the retention, we were not allowed, and we're not banned our instruments, banned our dance, because of them thinking it's heathenism and whatever, but they were being able to do the new cakewalk, and that was that strutting that were going around in the circle, and they were able to do that during festivities of the plantation owner when they were doing weddings or whatever, and to the entertainment of the slave holders. But the cakewalk is when you do that. And do you guys, ladies, remember? I mean, have heard of the cakewalk, right? And how they're going around in that circle and posturing and doing the type of creole dances that Cherie just mentioned. And those are carryovers, that helped us to retain, a part of our history. And also, it was used in a way of our own social justice during that time. You know what I mean? Because messages were translated during that time. Conversations were being able to have in a social gathering and stuff like that. So when, as both of you guys were, Jelena and Cherie were talking, I was like, what was that dance? What was that dance? And I was thinking the cakewalk. And then that was probably also what I saw in the presentation of, the Jim Crow era in that dance company presenting. It was that movement and gestures that happened during the cakewalk that we're still retaining in our own art, in our own dance in the club, or dance on not only on the stage but in the club, gyration of how our younger people are dancing.
Absolutely. I mean, that is just so powerfully said. And as you were mentioning, dance was used to convey messages, plans, just like drumming and singing were used, because we were often restrained from doing things at great risk to our lives. So we would use the arts to tell a story, to tell a plan, to tell where to meet, to tell what's going on, and all of that. I love that you brought that back up. And I always, like I said, again, call this arts in action. And we are really blessed, and I mean blessed, because of what they've done to the African diaspora community globally, but certainly here, to have footage and various artifacts and artistic artifacts at that tell those stories from the past and that we're continuing to still tell today. So, as you think about doing things in your community and being creative and engaging young people, using dance and combining it with social justice messaging is quite a powerful thing. I know that Shona, I'm sorry, is totally committed to using a variety of art forms. The work we do at the Culture Co-op is that way. All of us know that when you compound all these different kinds of things together, that it can make a tremendous difference. Music, the next one I want to go into just to show you a little bit. We're not going to watch this whole clip, but music is another way. Think about it. Each of them is artistic or an art craft or art form in its own right. But when you combine art, dance with music, with words, with imagery, then you're starting to talk about compounded institutional impact in a powerful and positive way. But here's an example of some people coming together using music as an expression of, playing for change.
Well, 18 hammers standing, standing in a line. Well, it's 18 hammers standing, standing in a line.
What's up, everybody? This is Robert Randolph, and I play for change.
I'm Michelle Ndegeocello, and I play for social change.
My name is Alfred Howard, and I'm raising my voice for social justice.
Mi nombre es Mary, soy de Portobelo y toco por la justicia racial.
What's up, everybody? My name is Becky G, and I play for change. I am Amina Mohammed, the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations. I stand for shared responsibility and global solidarity.
I am Angelique Kidjo, and I play for change.
Hola a todos, mi nombre es Jairo y yo bailo por la justicia racial.
I'm Tal Wolkenfeld, and I play for equality.
I'm Ellie Golding, and I stand up for social justice.
Hi, I'm Jamal Murray from the Denver Nuggets. I play for everybody around the world fighting for racial justice, social justice, and equality.
Hi, I'm Michael.
And I'm Tanya.
And we are the Warren Treaty.
And we play for change.
I'm Dr. Natalia Kanem, United Nations Undersecretary General and the Executive Director of UNFPA. I stand for the rights and choices of women and girls all around the world.
Greetings, I'm Sedella.
And I'm Skip Marley, and we stand for racial justice.
Every time.
We're sick and tired of the ism, schism, and dying, go to heaven in Jesus' name, Lord. We know and we understand Almighty God is a living man. You can fool some people sometimes, but you can't fool all the people all the time. Now you see the light. Stand up for your rights. Come on, get up, stand up. Stand up for your rights. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight. Get up, stand up. Stand up for your rights. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight. Preacher man, don't tell me heaven is under the earth. I know you don't know what life is really worth. It's not all that glitters is gold. Half that story has never been told. Now you see the light. Stand up for your rights. Get up, stand.
Del Congo.
I'm trying to pause it. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of a taste, again, of groups that are realizing and have really known for a long time the power of arts and arts in action and pulling them together to convey messaging around social justice and change. And then each of these people also do work individually in their communities, in their spaces, to work in solidarity toward that change. And as we know, music is such a powerful art form. And so I'd just like to get your thoughts on what you just saw a little snippet of. You can, there's a whole video for this. It's really long, but just want to get your overall feelings about the artistic expression of music in creating social justice and equity and so forth.
What's that cliche about music is a universal language, if you know what I mean?
Yes, yes.
People that believe in music are the happiest people you've ever seen.
Yes, yes.
And, just that in itself, bringing people together, to talk about this social change, and people, get into the rhythm of it, they listen to it, and it's not softening a message, but making sure you're bringing a message, it's what, my thoughts are about it.
It's right on point, right on point. What about you, Cherie or Jelena?
I can't live without music.
Right.
I'm with you on that. It's when you think about working and doing the work that we're doing, we also need inspiration. And even if it's just to inspire us, to re-inject us with the invigoration of staying the course, music can have that effect on you. One thing I like about music, if you need to cry, you can put on something sad and you'll cry. If you need to be uplifted, you can put up something uplifting and it will lift you up. All of this is a part of the journey of doing justice work. And that is you know, having the emotions and the energies and the strength to do what we need to do as we do this very difficult work. So I love it. I love it. You said it in a nutshell. How about you, Cherie?
Absolutely love it. And I think of how music is used just like dancing to communicate stories and messages. Also, like you said, you know, if you're feeling sad or just, you know, being able to listen to something or create something based off of how you feel.
Yes, absolutely. Um, and so one of the things that I am excited about the partnership that is going on um, is that you have various different art forms working together and collectively will have a impact. They will have excuse me, they will have they'll have an impact and resonate with different people because different art forms speak to different people. Some people are more wowed by a painting. Others are hit when they hear music. Others, you know, when they're moving their body, they're kinetic. And so we have to speak in all these different languages as we do the work that we do and we strategize. I believe in planning around the arts and using them at the right time to engage and really fully pull a group of people in. And you can actually tell them an untold story and create a new story as you pull them in using the various art forms at the right time, which gets me to this next little piece. It is using spoken word. And I'm just going to go ahead and put it on because we know that's powerful. And of course, you know, as a writer, I really love spoken word. This is a little clip from Queen Latifah's show.
They're three young women who are determined to change the world, one word at a time. They're part of a nonprofit organization called Get Lit, a program here in Los Angeles focused on teaching teens literacy through poetry. They recently opened for John Legend at the Hollywood Bowl, and now they are here to share their powerful performance with us. Please welcome Belissa, Zaria, and Rhiannon.
Here in America, in every single state, they have a set of standards for every subject, a collection of lessons that the teacher is required to teach by the end of the term.
But the greatest lessons you will ever teach us will not come from your syllabus.
The greatest lessons you will ever teach us, you will not even remember. You never told us what we weren't allowed to say. We just learned how to hold our tongues. Now, somewhere in America, there's a child holding a copy of Catcher in the Rye, and there's a child holding a gun.
But only one of these things have been banned by their state government, and it's not the one that can rip through flesh.
It's the one that says F you on more pages than one, because we must control what the people say, how they think.
And if they want to become the overseer of their own selves,
then we'll show them a real one. And somewhere in America, there's a child sitting at his mother's computer, reading the homepage of the KKK's website. That's open to the public, but that child will have never read To Kill a Mockingbird because the school has banned it for its use of the N-word.
Maya Angelou is prohibited because we're not allowed to talk about rape in school.
We were taught that just because something happens doesn't mean you are to talk about it.
They build us brand new shopping malls
so that we'll forget where we're really standing. On the bones of the Hispanics, on the bones of the slaves, on the bones of the Native Americans, on the bones of those who fought just to speak.
Transcontinental Railroad to Japanese internment camps.
There are things missing from our history books. But we were taught that it is better to be silent than to make them uncomfortable. Somewhere in America,
private schoolgirls search for hours through boutiques trying to find the prom dress of their dreams.
While kids on the South Side spend hours searching through the lost and found, because winter's coming soon and that's the only jacket they have.
Kids are late to class for working the midnight shift.
They give awards for best attendance, but not for keeping your family off the streets. These kids will call your music ghetto. They will tell you you don't talk right.
Then they'll get in the backseat of a car with all their friends,
sing about how they're about that life and we can't stop. Somewhere in America,
schools are promoting self-confidence
while they whip out their scales and shout out your body fat percentage in class.
Where the heftier girls are hiding away, and the slim-fit beauties can't help but giggle with pride.
The preppy kids go thrift shopping because they think it sounds fun.
But we go because that's all we've got money for. Because Mama works for the city. Mama only gets paid once a month. Somewhere in America,
a girl's getting felt up by a grown man on the subway.
She's still in her school uniform, and that's part of the appeal.
It's hard to run in knee socks and Mary Janes, and all her male teachers know it too. Coaches cover up star players raping freshmen after the dance.
Women are killed for rejecting dates.
But God forbid I bring my girlfriend to prom.
A girl is blackout drunk at the after party.
Take a picture before her wounds wake her. How many pixels is your sanity worth?
What's a 4.0 to a cold jury?
What'd you learn in class today?
Don't talk loud.
Don't speak loud.
Keep your hands to yourself.
Keep your head down.
Keep your eyes on your own paper. If you don't know the answer,
fill in C. Always wear earbuds when you ride the bus alone. If you feel like someone's following you, pretend you're on the phone. A teacher never fails, only you do. Every state in America, the greatest lessons are the ones you don't remember learning.
That was good. Those youngsters, man, my heart just goes boom, boom, boom. And, you know, again, the power of the arts to motivate, to make you think about the craziness, the hypocrisy, to make you become inspired to jump up and want to make a difference is just powerful. This is arts in action. And I really believe when you combine all the forms together, you create a nuclear explosion of love and impact and transformation. Reframing the word nuclear, because, you know, you think about a nucleus coming together as a people, the nucleus of a cell working in unison and solidarity, and then exploding into possibility and impact. So want to know what you thought about what the young queens were saying there? Anybody?
That was, go ahead. You have the floor, Jelena.
Go ahead, Jelena. All right, I think you're on mute, are you?
No, she's not.
Okay. So, something's going on.
Her mic. Yeah, I just sitting here letting it resonate, you know, the powerful presentation and the delivery. I'm this other tech person that thinks about, you know, the artist that was working with them to bring them to the forefront, to the stage. If you haven't been to the Hollywood Bowl and looking at the venue itself, I've been to the Hollywood Bowl out there in California, and it's I mean, that platform and the message and the number of people this resonated to in that huge bowl, you know, and just knowing that the social impact that they made by being invited to a venue like that, you know, can, you know, influence other young artists that are coming up, you know, that are understanding their voices, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this was just really powerful. And even though they were on the Queen Latifah show, giving them another audience, I don't think that the power of being at some place in a venue like the Hollywood Bowl, and then their voices resonating over that huge, you know, stadium could be something that's going to be so impactful in their own personal lives from this moment forward.
I couldn't agree more. They were just an amazing opportunity. How about you, Cherie?
I loved it. There was a whole lot of truth in there. I was like, oh wait, did they say this? Okay. Yeah. I really enjoy spoken word.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you so much. And Jelena, is your mic working now?
Yes, I think of we as older people, we have had all those different thoughts and feelings, but we've always had, most of us have had to internalize it and to watch them express it openly with not so much vehemence, but with a sense of who they were and who they should be and where they were and how they want to change the society so that when they get to where we are today, their children will always be able to communicate work together and to live in a society where they are people regardless of the color of their skin.
I hear, 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 hear. I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm going to pass this last one, which is a dramatic thing. Drama is an artistic form of expression too, just because of our time.
We
You know
have
what?
time.
Actually,
We have time.
actually, I'm going to go ahead because I just noticed the time is a little bit more than I thought. So let me just play a little bit of this.
It's easy to see this case as one man trying to prove his innocence. But when you take a black man and you put him on death row a year before his trial, and exclude black people from serving on his jury, when you base your conviction on the coerced testimony of a white felon, and ignore the testimony of 24 law-abiding black witnesses, when any evidence proving his innocence is suppressed and anyone who tries to tell the truth is threatened, this case becomes more than the trial of just a single defendant. It becomes a test of whether we're going to be governed by fear and by anger, or by the rule of law. If the people standing in the back of this courtroom are all presumed guilty when accused, if they have to leave here and live in fear of when this very thing will happen to them, if we're just going to accept the system that treats you better if you're rich and guilty than if you're poor and innocent, then we can't claim to be just. If we say we're committed to equal justice under law, to protecting the rights of every citizen, regardless of wealth, race, or status, then we have to end this nightmare for Walter McMillan and his family. The charges against them have been proven to be a false construction of desperate people, fueled by bigotry and bias, who ignored the truth in exchange for easy solutions, and that's not the law. That's not justice. That's not right. I ask that this case be dismissed immediately, Your Honor. Thank you.
So again, this was the art form of using drama, and it's one of my favorite tools to use with kids, young people, where you prompt them to do a skit or give them a word or something that they like to change, and they come up with a really quick vignette or something to do. The whole goal of showing this in action is, we all know this in the common sense of our beings, but sometimes it is critical to remind ourselves of the stories that art can tell. Art tells stories, whether it's in drama, spoken word, dance, music, actual sculptures, paintings, literature, and the many other expressions I'm not even mentioning right now today. They tell stories in a moment, across time, across generations. And if we fully engage them in a more strategic way, meaning, we don't just get caught up in the emotion of it, which is important to have, but we actually engage them and use them strategically, combined with timing and a holistic approach towards transformation, we actually can make incredible gains in social justice, fighting for justice, community engagement, fighting for equity, combating anti-Blackness, addressing white supremacy, trying to lay the foundation of power imbalance shifts so that there was more equity along the line. We have to do it, actually. I want to challenge people to do it. And I want to challenge my brethren, my family out there, my beloved out there who have darker skin, who have been made to feel that they are less than. I actually want to read a piece to you, a very short piece that I wrote called Black is the Color of My Skin. And before I do that, I want to say that by addressing the bottom of the caste system, which is the darkest among us in the world, we are addressing all the other groups as we do our social justice, as we do our community engagement, using arts, using knowledge, using wisdom, using, I hope, a paradigm for transforming individuals, communities, systems, and beyond, which is a key tool that we use. Going to the museum, the Sojourner Truth Museum in Sacramento, going to their Women's History Month so you can be engaged in the community in a real and powerful way. The vendors who are selling their artistic wares, the programming, the museum itself, which is a historic walk from the past to the present, and just getting an opportunity to even see one of Shona's pieces alone will ignite your spirit. But it's when we strategically do this all together in alignment, in the right time, in solidarity, working as a nuclear cell, that we can have the biggest impact. It does require knowledge. I argue that art alone in itself is not enough, but art combined with wisdom and understanding and history, that Sankofa knowledge, there is no stopping us. So as I am a big person understanding the global constructs of white supremacy as best I can and continuing to learn about it and how to dismantle it, because it is at the root of every problem we're facing in the community and around the world, and how we view anti-Blackness. I just wrote this small piece called Black is the Color of My Skin. And beloved, I want you all to know out there, those of us who couldn't join us, and I'm so honored to be with Alpha and Cherie and my elder Jelena, so honored to be here. Those of you who couldn't join us, you know, if you get the opportunity to see this, I hope it inspires your imagination again. You know, not necessarily sharing a lot of new stuff, but important reminders and some new stuff for many of you who have been kept from our history and our knowledge. Remember, who you are matters. The art you do matters. All of us have an artistic aspect in within ourselves that we need to use. I like to say, like 1,000 points of light coming together like a supernova of an explosion. When I was looking at my mortality, that image came to me, and it's never less, that we're 1,000 points of life coming together, hopefully like a supernova of explosion of impact in positive ways. So this is called Black is the Color of My Skin. Black is the color of my skin, the richest ebony hue. I've been told by many loved ones that I'm so black, I'm blue. The whites of my eyes jump out at you like a blinding, forceful light. Even in a crowd of the darkest people, my skin will catch your sight. The palms of my hands and the soles of my feet seem grossly out of place because black is the color of my skin. See its beauty on my face. The pink on my lips and the white on my teeth betray my skin's lovely night. Anyone using the words black as tar would be absolutely right. When you first meet me, I guarantee you'll see a vision you'll never forget, because black is the color of my skin, and I'm proud to reside in it. I said, because black is the color of my skin, and I'm proud to reside in it. And did I tell you that black is the color of my skin, and I'm proud to reside in it? And that's what we're trying to convey to all communities of color, to all people. We are the human family, but we have to be real and honest that those of us with darker complexions, particularly African diasporic people all over the globe, are being persecuted, are being tortured, murdered, kept from, are being told that they are savages and less than, that their lives don't matter. They are being told they don't have any real rights. We are seeing authoritarian governments rise like flowers in the spring. Again, all over the world, we are passing laws within our own country that are hurting us within our own communities. And so I want to invite you all to use the arts to come together with us.